Congresswoman Leger-Fernandez, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Gwyneth, and thank you to everybody who is listening tonight.
I'm going to start with the economy. Your enormous district includes both the richest and poorest parts of the state, from Los Alamos and Santa Fe to Crown Point, Tucumcari. Let me ask you, what are you doing in Congress to give all New Mexicans the opportunity to improve their financial situation and their quality of life?
So I love the fact that you highlighted how beautifully diverse my district is. I always start with, I'm Congresswoman Teresa Leger-Fernandez, representing the beautiful and beautifully diverse 3rd Congressional District, because it is, and it is diverse both in socioeconomic and economic opportunities, and about 20% of my district is Native American. I have ranchers, I have the labs, I have a great diversity in every way imaginable, right? And each of those areas contributes to the economy of New Mexico in important ways. And what we've done, especially during my first term in Congress, was recognize that we need to invest in our communities in order to make them stronger economically. So what did we do? The bipartisan infrastructure law has brought billions into my district to make sure that we have the water that is essential. You cannot build any kind of business or have any kind of home if you don't have that water flowing. When the water flows, New Mexico grows. We made sure we had roads and broadband. I am a co-chair of the Rural Broadband Task Force. I have been laser focused in making sure that we bring broadband all over New Mexico, especially our rural areas. We've bought over $1 billion of broadband. But then we need to make sure we support our agricultural areas. I have several bipartisan pieces of legislation to support local agriculture, looking at our arid landscape and investing in the kind of water conservation techniques, making sure our ranchers have the support they need, our farmers have the support, that we're supporting our nutrition programs. I've been looking at how do we also then invest in our education systems. Because if we're not growing, investing in what we believe in, which is our students, we are not going to have the workforce of tomorrow. So
let me keep you back from education, about financial about the opportunity for prosperity specifically.
The opportunity for prosperity. So the basic infrastructure is there, right? And when we look at the Inflation Reduction Act, right, we passed a bill that actually has generated about $8.3 billion with a B worth of private investment in New Mexico. It's included manufacturing, wind turbines, solar manufacturing, and then solar installation. That's one area of economic development. I have a bill for the creative industry, investment in the creative industry. That's one of the pieces. I often talk about the enchanted innovation economy. New Mexico is the land of enchantment, but we also can create that innovation economy that will help us diversify as we move away from fossil fuels, as we have that transition.
I'm going to come back to the economy several times here. Let me give you one kind of specific example. The Calf Canyon Hermit's Peak fire was the largest and most destructive fire in New Mexico's history, and it means that a big part of northern New Mexico just is not going to be able to fully recover in our lifetimes. What is the economic and cultural future for those communities impacted by that fire?
That fire and the fact that it was so destructive and cost so many people their lives and livelihood and ancestral heritage, right? We need to recognize that it had all of those impacts, which was why it was so important for me to hold the federal government accountable and bring in $3.95 billion to help compensate them so that they can get compensated while those forests regrow, so that they can sell their Christmas trees, sell their wood products, and perhaps look at other kinds of economic development in the meantime. So that $3.95 billion is going to go to reconstruction of homes. It's going to go to help business people look at new opportunities, and we have ranchers and farmers utilizing the money already. It's not going out fast enough, which is why I've been holding them accountable. We are also holding next week, we'll be having a financial planning session so that people who are receiving that kind of compensation can start thinking about what's the next step. I have been at the forefront of galvanizing what I call like a phoenix, rising from the ashes, where I'm creating a recursos, a resource hub, so that people can go and get more information about how to build those businesses, bringing in the Small Business Administration. I required that the Small Business Administration now be teaming up with FEMA. So I'm very concerned about that, because I do not want, this is my home, right? This is where I grew up and where I rode horses, and I love this community so deeply. I do not want people to move out. I want them to be able to stay and know they have a future in northern New Mexico.
I want to think about the Republicans who are sort of new to this district. There's been a lot of changes here, and you now represent a lot of Republicans who were furious about the way that this was redrawn and redistricting. They say that Democrats deliberately disenfranchised voters in Clovis and Portales, Roswell, Artesia, Hobbs. All of these are in your district now. Why should you be the person to represent these conservative communities?
I did not control the redistricting, but what I do love is my district. And I show up in my district. I will be going back down to Roswell because they're doing really interesting things at the airport there. I will be taking one of those big, beautiful checks where we're able to support a few projects directly, federally directed funding. I call it community supported funding, because we have these amazing projects that come up. And I'll be taking these big checks to say, here's ways in which I've helped your senior center, the ways in which I've helped your infrastructure. Roswell has one of the best CASA, court-appointed advocates for the children that have been abused by the system. I am helping them grow that system. So all over my district, I often get told, you show up more than anybody I've ever known. And so whether or not whatever happened, I represent this district. I love representing the district. I am a daughter of rural New Mexico. And these are rural areas, so I understand the struggles. I understand the connection to the land. I understand those issues well, and I take those voices back to DC, and I work in an amazing bipartisan manner on these issues.
But let me point out one area where there's an ideological disconnect, and it's abortion, right? Lots of folks in this district, places like Clovis, Eunice, Hobbs, Roosevelt, and Lee counties, a lot of those people don't support abortion rights the way you do, and politicians there pass these ordinances trying to keep out abortion clinics. Why should these communities have abortion clinics or access when they fought so hard not to?
I am really happy that New Mexico understands the importance of freedom and understands the importance of a woman's freedom to make these personal decisions without the interference of politicians or government, because it's a conversation you should be having with your doctor, your own faith, and your familia. And when we talk about abortion restrictions in those states that have implemented abortion restrictions, women are dying from pregnancy complications. Gwyneth, let me tell you a story. Nearby, in one of the hospitals nearby, I was pregnant and I was on an operating table. I was losing so much blood that I could hear the doctor saying, "We're going to lose her, we're going to lose her." They had to worry about my life and whether they'd save me, but they didn't have to worry about whether they would be criminally prosecuted for carrying out my decision of what to do during that pregnancy. And that's the key difference that I think people are beginning to understand in New Mexico, in this country, that when you restrict a woman's freedom to make decisions about her own reproductive health, You're restricting her decisions to make about abortion, about contraceptions, about IVF, but also about saving her own life when a pregnancy goes wrong. And that, I think, is starting to set in that you are respecting women on all those complex decisions. And so I think that I am very pleased that New Mexico has that. And I know that people might have different positions on that. But I think that it's important to recognize that these decisions are medical decisions that are best left to the freedom of the woman to have, because there are ramifications that come from it.
I want to keep thinking for a minute about these voters in that southernmost part of this district now. And a lot of the conversations that we have about immigration, people are bringing up cartels and fentanyl and drugs coming across the border. But I want to think about the economy for a minute. You know, the argument that we often hear is that immigrants are taking jobs, taking New Mexicans' jobs. But when you think about your district, from, say, Hobbs to Santa Fe, how would you describe the impact of immigration on New Mexico?
We know, I think, from a personal level as New Mexicans, because we all know somebody who's an immigrant, but also statistically, we know that immigrants work hard, they pay their taxes, and they work hard at jobs that we often have perhaps shortages. And so we need them. And so I speak to agricultural ranchers and farmers in the southern part of my district. They want us to fix the broken immigration system because they want to be able to have access, legal pathways for immigrants to be able to work in the agricultural industry, to be able to work in the oil and gas industry. They want to be able to have legal pathways for our dreamers who came here so young, right, and need to have a legal pathway for hardworking immigrants, law-abiding, to be able to have that. But the immigration system is broken, and we need bipartisan commitment to fix it. And we need to recognize that fentanyl is brought into this country. Actually, there's some great studies, including from like the Cato Institute, which is a right-wing conservative think tank that says it's not immigrants who are bringing in fentanyl, it's citizens, and it's coming through at our ports of entry. So we need legislation to cut it off at our ports. We need to invest in the technology that we need at our ports of entry, that we need along our borders, so that we can keep out fentanyl that China is sending over, right? And keep out criminals. But at the same time, recognize the value that immigrants bring to our economy, and it's like about a $1.7 trillion economic benefit, right? They pay taxes, they're important, and when we think about those aspects and do not demonize the problem, and do not demonize and use immigrants to divide and to tell lies about their communities, which is what we're hearing from the Republican presidential candidates. They're telling lies about these immigrant communities and demonizing them rather than saying, okay, this is an issue we need to fix. How do we work in a bipartisan manner to fix it? Because it's good for the economy, it's good for New Mexico, and it's good for, I think, our values of humanity to actually fix this issue.
Switching topics just a little bit here, there's a lot of conversation here in New Mexico and nationally now about missing and murdered Indigenous people. I want to know, what can you do in Congress? You're so well placed there now. What can you do to change the dynamic of this problem at its root and prevent these people from going missing and being murdered?
I worked on the issue of the Violence Against Women Act when I was an advocate and an attorney at Laguna when they were first passing the first reauthorization, where they did not want to include Native Americans. We had to push back against mostly Republicans who didn't want to include Native Americans, they didn't want to include lesbians, they didn't want to include immigrant women into the protections of the Violence Against Women Act. So I was really pleased when I was able to get to Congress and move for the latest reauthorization to increase the funding that would be going to address the missing and murdered Indigenous peoples, Indigenous women. And at its core, though, is it's a failure to recognize the jurisdictional problems in Indian country, because tribes cannot prosecute non-Indians who come onto the reservation and commit these heinous crimes against women and other persons. And we do not have enough federal resources dedicated to that. So these perpetrators see it as a ripe area. You can go in, do these horrible things, and then you're not going to get caught. And that's what we have to change, is people realizing that not only you're going to get caught, we're so focused on preventing this that we're putting more resources in there than you've ever seen before. And that's one of the areas that I push, because I understand those unique jurisdictional issues because of my prior work representing tribes and working on jurisdiction issues. That's where it is at its core, is an issue of respecting the tribal ability to go after non-Indians who come in and rape and murder and abduct women and other people from those reservations. Those tribes need to be able to have that ability.
You're going back to your opponent, Sharon Clutchy Shillage. She's a member of the Navajo Nation, which is a big part of the 3rd Congressional District. She comes from a family of cattle ranchers, sheep herders, and she says she will be a better steward of New Mexico's land and water. Why are you the better candidate to advocate for New Mexico's environment and tackle climate change in Washington?
I love this beautiful place we call home. And since I got to Congress, and importantly, before I got to Congress, I have been working to protect the land, air, and water of New Mexico, the places that people hold sacred because of the traditions, the tribal traditions and sacred places, or because we revere as non-tribal people because they are part of who we are. Like the beautiful places that we go when we find solace, that provide the water that is important to us. So I've been doing this my whole life, and it's not words that matter, it's action. And when you look at my record, I've acted to protect Chaco Canyon, to protect areas, to protect our waters from exploitation, to make sure that our waters continue to grow.
Congresswoman Teresa Leger Fernandez, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you so very much.